New Jersey trails only New York in terms of the number of cases and deaths from COVID-19. Residents there have been under lockdown since a March 21st stay-at-home order from Governor Phil Murphy. He joins us now. Governor, so we're seeing other states start to dip their toe into opening up. What is your very latest thinking on getting New Jersey back in business?
Good to be on with you. You're absolutely right. We're the second most impacted state. We've lost over 6,700 lives. It's almost unfathomable. We put in place earlier this week a 6-step road to recovery plan. The first 4 steps of those are healthcare related. And the most important one is we need to see curves continue to go down, whether it's flattening of the positive test curve or hospitalizations continuing to go down. And they have begun to do that. Intensive care beds, ventilators, et cetera. And we're still losing too many lives. So that's got to be the first step. We're not there yet. I think we're several weeks away, but we are going to start to take some baby steps. I announced, for instance, today that effective this weekend, Saturday morning at sunrise, we're going to reopen both state and county parks and allow golf to take place in New Jersey under very explicit parameters, assuming folks do the right thing. They don't congregate in those parks. They keep social distancing. They wear face masks. We'll keep those parks open. That's maybe a symbolic but important one for mental health and for folks who have been locked up for weeks upon weeks. And by the way, New Jersey's compliance has been great, but this is a step, I hope, in the right direction. The first of many we're going to have to take, but it's going to take some time.
Governor, good talking to you again, and thanks for that update. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is I know that you have an all-star cast really ready to go on this commission that you've started, including former Fed Chair Bernanke Bernanke and CEOs of Campbell's and Prudential and Merck ready to help you open the economy. What are you looking to them for in terms of guidance, and what will their role be to help New Jersey restart?
Good to be back with you, Anjali. Yeah, this is a group that we announced yesterday. It's about 20 persons, including most notably the lieutenant governor, who are ex officio members of the committee. The theory is a simple one. None of us have ever done this before. None of us have ever lived through or governed through a pandemic, and then the recovery that we're going to need to see that follows. And so the hope is that this group, which represents a whole range of perspectives. You mentioned 3 outstanding current and former CEOs, Rich Trumka, the president of the AFL-CIO, Neera Tanden, who runs the Center for American Progress. We've got a small business representative on that committee, faith-based arts community. We need wisdom from them. We need them to react to suggest steps that they think are prudent, that we should be taking. You know, this has been both a crushing healthcare crisis in our state as well as a crushing economic crisis in our state, frankly, in our country. And we need all the help and wisdom and advice we can get.
And what about testing? I mean, we know that you have the site of the first drive-up saliva testing in the country, as well as you announced that you're going to be ramping up as well, mirroring what New York's efforts have been. So, how are you maintaining the supplies and looking at that? The supply chain has been such a big issue. Tell us what's going on in terms of that. Is it really the federal government versus the state right now?
Yeah, no, I'd say it's actually right now we've got a high degree of cooperation with the federal government. You know, we started as a country completely unprepared for this, and I'll use testing as the best example of that. New Jersey's cobbled together, frankly, with bubble gum and paper clips. We're now the 3rd or 4th highest tested state in America, but the feds, to their credit, particularly early on with FEMA, have been there for us. So one of those 6 benchmarks that I announced, in addition to on the road to recovery, in addition to seeing those curves go down, Anjali, to your very good question, is we've got to get scaled up testing, and it's got to be rapid return testing. Rutgers University, our flagship state university, has done extraordinary work on this. I see some cheers there.
Yeah, Charlotte Knights there.
Amen. RU is in the house. But I would say we've got a very good rhythm going right now with the federal government. I hope even before the end of this week that we'll be able to announce some specifics in terms of not just having the ability to test, but to have our arms around the supply chain with thanks to the federal government. But more to come on that.
Governor Murphy, hey, Rick Newman here. So are you getting everything you need from the federal government at this point, or do you need more? And if you do, what is it?
Yeah, I'd say three things. Number one is the testing supply chain. As I say, I think we're in a good place, but not. I'll ask you to look for some more definitiveness around that over the next number of days. Secondly, we constantly make the point that we desperately need direct federal cash assistance. And New Jersey's not alone. This is states of blue and red colors all over the country, but particularly the ones that have been hardest hit. And we are at or near the top of that list. This has been a historic blow, not just to individuals who lost their jobs or to small businesses or sectors like airlines and casinos and others, but state governments. I know ours, our expenses go up by the day as we're taking care of the folks who've been impacted. Our revenues are off a cliff. So we definitely need that. And that's something that's still outstanding. That's a congressional matter, obviously, but we also need the president to sign anything that gets his way. And thirdly, and finally, this is not going to be over in the next couple of weeks. We need to make sure that we have a sustaining partnership with the federal government, because we're part of, at a minimum, we're part of the New York City metro reality. Even if we bat 1,000 and reopen our economy exactly the right way without any mistakes, this virus, according to anybody who's an expert, will suggest is going to come back and bite us again. We got to make sure that we're in this relationship with the administration for the long haul. Those are the three, I'd say, realities right now.
Governor Murphy, Andy Serwer here. You know, one thing the virus does not respect is state lines, right? The coronavirus doesn't understand what a state is. And I know you've been working with Governor Lamont and Governor Cuomo, but how are you coordinating things? I mean, you've got like mass transit coming in from New Jersey into the city. How is that all going to unfold?
Yeah, Andy, very good question. And you just peeled yourself off the ceiling after the Rutgers comments. I just want to make sure the audience knows. Listen, it's got to be really three rings of focus, I believe. In my case, we got to make sure that whatever we do to get back on our feet meets the litmus test of what's right for the 9 million folks who call New Jersey home. The second ring is, to your very good question, we got to do this, if not exactly coordinated, at least harmonized with the relevant neighbors. And for us, we formed a regional council. We had basically been informally checking with each other the entire way. When we shut down, we said, you know what, let's put something, a little bit more formality around this as we reopen. And so things like mass transit are exactly the sorts of things that we're trying to come to grips with right now. What's the new normal look like? What's the work at home reality going to be? What's the capacity that we should impose, everything from a restaurant to a transit train, et cetera. And then the third ring is we need a deep and abiding and sustainable relationship with the federal government. And I think it's got to be all three. It's when we announced that regional council, folks said, oh gosh, they're doing that because they can't get what they want from the feds. That's just not true. We need to do both. We got to get it right for ourselves, our neighborhood, and with the federal government. And those are exactly the sort of questions that you're asking that our regional council is pondering as we speak.
Governor Murphy, I want to get back to that earlier point you made about the massive revenue shortfall you face right now. You've made the point, like many other governors, that you need the help from the federal government. What happens if you don't get that in a timely manner? What's the alternative? Are you considering tax hikes in certain areas, massive cuts? What's the plan B? Yeah,
I don't think there's any amount of tax hikes that you can put in place that comes close to what we're talking about. In New Jersey, this is a $20 billion or more hole. So there's no amount of taxing that we can do. It would be massive cuts in service and headcount. Which is exactly the last thing we should be doing for a number of reasons. Number one, the people's livelihoods. It would be crushing to yet another universe of first responders, educators, EMS, et cetera. Secondly, we'd be pulling services from the very folks who need them the most at the time of the most significant healthcare crisis in the history of our nation. So it couldn't be worse timing. And if that weren't enough, we're already at all-time highs in terms of unemployment. Would be probably coming close back of the envelope, doubling unemployment in America right now. So for all of those reasons, please God, let's take door number one, federal direct cash assistance into the states, not just New Jersey, but for states across the country, particularly those that have been hit hard. And that's the smartest, in my opinion, overwhelmingly the smartest thing we could do right now.
And Governor, one of the things that I know you pointed out, what the new normal looks like. What does that look like for businesses, and what can the private sector expect you to come out with in terms of rules and what your expectations are?
Yeah, I mean, Angela, I think it's too early to give you a full chapter and verse on what that looks like. If you look at the state parks, for instance, we are mandating, none of the playgrounds will be open, no picnics, no rest areas, no visitor centers will be open. We're expecting folks not to congregate, keep at least 6 foot distance. Mask is strongly recommended. I think you're going to see similar, by the way, we're limiting our parking lots to 50% capacity. I think you can assume that steps like that will apply plus or minus in a lot of different ways. What's a warehouse look like? I think it's going to be hyper social distancing, hyper cleaning of surfaces, face masks, work from home wherever practicable and possible. I think it's going to be, you said it, it's a normal, but it's going to be a new normal. And it's going to be, I think, a quantum step for our country, not just our state, in terms of when we all look back on this decades from now. This is going to be a major inflection point for how we go about our lives.
And final question, Governor. You're a former Goldman Sachs guy. Not that we hold that against you in any way.
Recovering banker.
Yeah, there you go. But what's your take on the economy? We just got that GDP report out that was pretty grim. Q2 is probably going to be worse. Unemployment, recession, very likely. How's this going to unfold for the balance of the year?
Gosh, I don't know that I've got a big enough crystal ball. I know it's a hell of a rough patch for us in New Jersey. I do think if you look at the textbooks, I'm strongly of the opinion, spend, and don't worry about your indebtedness right now. And that's something that is counter to the first couple of, I got elected to fix the economy and get this state back in order. And so we've been making record pension payments. We've been having record fiscal surpluses and rainy day funds. We've been managing our indebtedness. I think you got to use a different playbook right now. I think the federal government, we can't print money, but the feds can. So I think stimulus in a big way to states. I like the Federal Reserve's borrowing or lending facility they announced a couple of weeks ago that they'd buy municipal bonds. I'd like to see New Jersey take advantage of that. I think we shouldn't be worried right now. Again, there'll be a time to worry about this, but I'm less worried about the balance sheet right now. I'm much more worried about getting cash on the barrel to the point of attack, including to folks who are unemployed, small businesses, big impacted sectors, and especially to states.
Governor Phil Murphy, New Jersey's governor, thank you so much for joining us. We know you have a very full plate, and we appreciate your thoughts and all that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.